Hey guys, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to share with you my October wrap-up, all the books I read in the month of October. I read 8 books total, which is a personal record for me, so yay! I had a really good reading month. I read some really good books. But before I get into the wrap-up, I just wanted to say hello to all the new subscribers on my channel, because in the last few days I have had a lot of new subscribers, and that is all thanks to April over at Getting Hugga With It. She did a shout out video talking about YouTubers that she really likes, and I was one of the ones mentioned, and it has brought a lot of people to my channel, so I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much, April. It was so sweet of you to do that. And also, hello and welcome to all of the new people, and also to all of my subscribers that I had before that video. So but yeah, other than that, now that that little bit is taken care of, let's get into the books that I read. My first October read was Bird Box by Josh Malerman, and this was a long anticipated, highly anticipated read for me. I have been wanting to read Bird Box for a really long time, and I have to say it did not disappoint. For those of you that don't know what Bird Box is about, because I feel like I'm one of the last people to have read Bird Box, it has been pretty popular for the past couple of years, but for those of you that don't know what Bird Box is about, it is about this woman who lives in this town where, well, and across the world, this weird thing is happening where people are going insane and they harm other people and then they harm themselves, and it's very violent. And what they start to kind of think is happening is that there's something out there, outside, that when they look at it, it pretty much instantly does something to you and just drives you mad, and then you start doing these things. And so this woman is living in a house, and she is trying to get to another location. And to get there, though, because you can't look outside, because if you see this thing or things, you will go crazy, she has to blindfold herself. And she has 2 little children with her. And so she blindfolded, her and the kids get in this rowboat and are going down this river. And it was a really unsettling read for me. To me, not being able to see, to get around is just really unsettling, and just to have that constant darkness around you is almost claustrophobic feeling. And also what made the book super effective in the creepy factor was that you don't know what this thing or things look like. So there are scenes in the book where, you know, she thinks that one of them is around her and she has no idea what it looks like, and to know what it looks like would be horrible, because to look at it you go mad. So you're just imagining what this thing looks like, and your imagination goes crazy, at least mine does. And so that was super creepy, super effective, and I just loved that device that the author used, because it was very unique. I had never read anything like Bird Box before, and it was really interesting. I really liked it. The only thing that I would have wanted was, I almost kind of wished it were a little longer, where he could have developed some of the other characters a little more, because the book goes back and forth in time from when this thing started to the present when she's in this boat. So it would have been nice to get more of the backstory of some of the characters, just because they were kind of interesting, but they only kind of touched the surface. So overall, though, I really loved Bird Box, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So, and the other interesting thing that I found was it took place in Southeast Michigan, which is where I live, and the author is actually from Ferndale, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. And I know where that is. Like, I've been to Ferndale, so I was like, oh wow, I did not realize that Josh Malerman was a local author, so that was kind of cool too. Next up, I read 3 Goosebumps books for the Goosebumps Along, and it was a lot of fun. The 3 books that we read were Phantom of the Auditorium, Welcome to Camp Nightmare, and Ghost Beach. I'm not going to say too much about Ghost Beach because I read this during the Spookathon, and I talked about it during my Spookathon wrap-up, so I'm not going to talk about this one, except I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So I will link my Spookathon wrap-up down below if you want to check that out, because I read this one, and also The Wicked by James Newman. Wow. I was just talking about Bird Box, so but I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars, and then I also during Spookathon read The Girl with All the Gifts which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. So again, if you want to check out my more in-depth thoughts about these books, I will link that video down below. But anyways, back to the 2 Goosebumps books that I haven't talked about yet. First I read Phantom of the Auditorium, and this one I don't think I read as a kid. And I liked it. I thought that I liked how it was more of like a mystery kind of thing, and it obviously deals with, it's like a Phantom of the Opera kind of story. It kind of borrows that mystery, but puts it in like a middle school setting with a play and all that stuff. So it was a fun read. The twist was good. It was a little predictable, but it was good, and I liked it. It was, like I said, a kind of cool little mystery. Not my favorite Goosebumps book I've ever read, but it was good, and I'm glad I read it, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And then we read Welcome to Camp Nightmare, and this one actually surprised me. I actually really liked this one. I thought that for a Goosebumps book, it was pretty dark, and the twist at the end was great. It was very Twilight Zone, which I really liked, and I honestly didn't really see coming, so that says a lot when a like Goosebumps book kind of surprises you. But it's about this kid who goes to a camp, and pretty much from the get-go, something ain't right with this camp, and stuff starts happening, people start disappearing, and he's like, what is going on? And yeah, I really liked this one. It was good, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. My next October read was Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. This was a book I got in the Nocturnal Readers box a couple months ago, and it was about a young kid named Junior who he believes he keeps seeing the ghost of his father in his house, like in the middle of the night, and he's basically just trying to figure out what he's doing there, and maybe in some ways kind of communicate with him. In this one, I liked the story. It was, for being kind of a spooky ghost story, it wasn't super scary at all. It was more kind of just kind of like sad, honestly. And there was one particular scene though that I thought was spooky, because there's a scene where because they live in like a modular home, so it's like a crawl space underneath their house, and he crawls under there, and for me that is really scary because I don't like enclosed spaces. It's dark, it's tight, there's probably spiders under there. And so I was like, no way, kid, what are you thinking, crawling under that place? I would not do that in a million years. So that scene in particular I found scary. But other than that, it wasn't super scary. My main issue with it was I didn't really like the writing. A lot of commas were used. It was very choppy. And I just couldn't like get into the writing. I would say read it because it is a good story, and it has to do with also with Native American culture, and what modern Native Americans deal with today, because of things that have happened to them in the past, on reservations and everything like that. And I found that really interesting because I've never read anything like that before. And like I said, the story was good, it was sad, but the writing was lacking for me. So I would recommend it, but I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And my final read for October, and probably my favorite, well, not probably, totally my favorite by far, that I read this month, and is probably going to end up being one of my favorite books of the year, was The Elementals by Michael McDowell. This book surprised me in a great way, you guys. Like, okay, this is a horror novel, but the writing was amazing. Like, I can't wait to read more of Michael McDowell's books because I just, from like page 1, I was like so into the writing, and I actually like, it took me a while to read this. It's like a 200-page book. It took me a while to read this because I was like taking my time because I just loved the way that the writing was. But the story is that there are 2 families, and it takes place in Alabama, and the 2 families are the McCraes and the Savages, and they both families own these kind of vacation homes down on the Gulf, and they're kind of lined up next to each other. There's one house is the Savages, one house is the McCraes, and then there's a house in the middle, and that house is uninhabited. They don't know who owns it, and yeah, it's definitely haunted. And I don't want to say too much more about this story, except that it was so unique to me, because the horror aspect was so subtle, and kind of slowly came on, and was very effective. And I will say, though, that I never thought sand could be so dark and scary and creepy, but after reading this book, you will think differently of sand, let me tell you. I think that this is like Southern Gothic at its best. I mean, it's like, earlier in the year I read Cat on a Hot Tin Roof by Tennessee Williams, and I feel like if Tennessee Williams had written a horror novel, it would be like this. Because the characters in this book were very similar to the characters in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, the dynamics that these families had, because they're two separate families, but they're kind of binded by marriage, and they've known each other for years and years, and like the kids grew up together and stuff like that. So just the way that they kind of handle each other, particularly there is a father-daughter relationship in here that is very unconventional but interesting, likable. So yeah, this was a really good book, you guys. I totally loved this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, hands down. I highly recommend it, because even if horror isn't really your thing, it's, like I said, it's kind of subtle in this book, but there are definitely some scenes that are creepy, but it's so subtle, and the writing is just so good that it's just like, you have to read it. You just have to. So yeah, pick this up if you can. Alright guys, so that is my October wrap-up. Like I said, I had a pretty good reading month. I had a 5-star book, I had a couple of 4-star books, but it's always good when you get 4 and 5-star books. Super fun. So other than that, yeah, that's all I have for today. I hope that October was spooky and scary and fun, and that your Halloween was great, and that, you know, it was just a fun time. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, so I always love this time of year, especially living where I live. There's all kinds of stuff to do, so haunted houses and corn mazes and obviously pumpkin picking and all that, so it's been a really good month, and yeah, I just had a really good time. So I hope that you guys had a great month as well, and I hope that November treats you well too, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.